we're going to attempt to upgrade this radio system. So what I did so far is I pulled the cover off, the rubber mat out of here. I took a flat blade screwdriver. I popped this off. There's these compression tabs. And then there's 2 7mm up in the corner. Right here and there. I loosened those up and I pulled up on this. There's no reason to take it out completely, to spin it to the side. There's a couple 7mm right here. Go ahead and take those loose. And once you take those 2 out of there, I just throw it up here in my tray. I grab the center. Don't hit the... And then, see, this is loose. Start working your hands down the side and pulling the rest of it off as well. Get down here. There it is. It popped out, and I'll start unplugging stuff. All right, after I popped the center stack off and got everything unplugged, I took the 2 and the new radio, this 12.1-inch screen. I took these plastic inserts, one out of this side and one out of this side, and then I snapped in my traction control button and my hazard button into the top of it so it can still retain that. Next thing I did is I took the 6 silver bolts that hold this in. This is your radio face. Now there's an audio control module down here, but then there's also it's like a accessory protocol interface module, but it's not quite the same thing. We're not going to touch this. We're going to put the screw back in there and the screw back in there, and we're going to leave this inside this dash. Alright, so I plugged everything in and I got the radio working. This is a GPS module if you ever want to hook up a separate GPS system. But if you've got an Android phone and stuff like that, this is not really necessary. I went ahead and just put it on here anyway. But what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to transfer over these AC controls from this panel here to this panel here. And we got to take this black cover off the back of it. It's a series of Phillips screws that hold it on. And they're really small. So let's get those off of there and let's get this back cover off, because we have to take the circuit board for this AC control and transfer it over. Now at this point here on the bottom of those AC controls, there's your regular AC controls, and then there's the panel that came on mine had an extra little slot underneath it, a long oval slot. I didn't need that from my application. What I needed was the other panel that screws into the bottom of that entire platform underneath that monitor. So I actually have to go back later in the video and say, hey, I did that wrong. I'm putting the right panel on, and I explain to you what that panel is. Now that we're inside this and we got the rear cover off of there, you got to take these little Torx. They're T10s, little Torx screws. Took all them out of there, slid that off, and then I took and pulled up on these. You can pull up or you can pull down on these tabs, and this little ribbon will actually just slide out of there like so. Or you can put them back in and then slide the tabs back in. But these won't be needed anymore with the new setup. And now that we've got those 2 disconnected, what we can do is we can start taking all these little screws loose on this board here that hold this part and this part on, and then we're going to transfer it over to the new piece that's underneath it right now. Okay, I've got the circuit board sitting over here to the side. I didn't touch the dial at all. I left it alone, but I made sure I looked at this to see exactly where it was at, and it was right there whenever I took it apart. And then I had to pull this plastic ring off of there. I kind of pulled up on the tabs, and then I broke one little corner right there, and I twisted it up and off of there. So now I can take this thing and sit it down inside this housing. I realized I made a mistake. And you see how this one has the window on the bottom of it? They send you a separate one that doesn't have the window on the bottom of it. And I had to transfer everything over. Make sure when you're taking that circuit panel and you're transferring it over to the new radio face that the little rubber pads that are on the opposite side come with it. Be conscious of that. And these controls snap right into place with no issue. So I had the wrong bottom panel on there, so I had to pull everything back apart, take the 2 screws out, one here and one here, swap the panel over, and then put everything back. Here's what I did. I took a few of my medium coarse screws and I put them in that circuit board, one in that corner, one there, and one there to hold it down. Now I'm going to put this rear cover back on the back of it, get it lined up, and then put those 4 screws back in. Alright, now I took one here and one here of the medium screws and fastened the bottom through into the circuit board to hold it all together. And this is what it looks like. Very nice. Okay, then at this point, now that I'm back in the truck, I went ahead and took the orange clips from the old bezel and swapped them over. And now I'm going to start installing all my connectors into all the locations where they belong. Alright, it looks kind of jumbled. It's turned on now. Let me show you what I got going on back here. I've got the white connector hooked into the box. This is the reverse system. It will plug directly into the camera. The camera clip goes in here, and then it goes into the back of the radio. And then just match up all your little pins, your 4 pins, your 6 pins, your 8 pins. This harness here, unless you're hooking up like external audio controls and stuff like subwoofer and stuff, you really don't need it. Everything else is pretty self-explanatory. It snaps right into only one connector. And we did end up taking that module out. You can see, if you don't swap over that circuit board, you're not going to have AC controls, and you're going to have an airbag light that stays on. So that control panel does need to be swapped over. And be conscious of that bottom piece, and make sure you don't do what I did and swap over the wrong one, or leave the wrong one on it out of the box. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish getting my hazards plugged in and getting this snapped in so we can see what this looks like. Alright, after messing with the cords and getting them to pull through and pulling stuff out of the way, it took me probably 15 minutes just to get this thing to snap in, because there's so much behind it. You got to reach down in the top right here, kind of get it pulled through. But check it out, man. Wow. Check it out. You know what? I gotta plug those 2 connectors back in. I unplugged. Man, I hate myself right now. One thing I forgot to mention is there's a connection for a USB port on the back of the radio if you want to run a USB port. So I did hook that in. And then there's also a connection if you want to run their hands-free that comes with the radio. This microphone clips up top somewhere. So I pulled them both through the top. And this hooks into the black wire that says mic that's in the harness. Here we go. And what I was showing you, the steering wheel controls does work. You can switch back and forth between stations and stuff from your regular controls. You look up here, see how traction control on, traction control off, hazards. You got hazards as well up here on top. You don't really have to do what I did to pull these cables through. Like you see how I have them just pulled through up top here. And you may ask, well, how in the hell did you do that? Well, I actually drilled a 1.5-inch hole underneath this in the plastic. It's hard to see it. There's a hole right here. I drilled that, and then I slit the rubber here, and I pulled my cable through. So the USB will sit in here, and then I could run my microphone out around and come up here by the driver somewhere, and I'll do that tomorrow. But as of right now, this is the initial install. And I've got all the factory parts still that I can end up selling or whatever, keeping. It is what it is, whatever. So now let's get this thing working, and let's hook the phone up to it. Okay, yeah, I've got Bluetooth hooked up. I've playing my YouTube videos on the screen. It's an extremely nice setup. I am very, very impressed with this. And you could be like, hey Google, send me to Baker Square or something like that, and it all recognizes with Android CarPlay with your phone and pulls up the map and automatically puts it on the screen for you. So pretty cool, pretty nifty radio. It's like $579 for the setup, and it's all plug and play. So 15 to 18 on the basic model XLTs. You'll have to go on the link that I put down below to find specific models, but it fits anywhere from 15 to like, I want to say like 20, 21 F150s, maybe others, but just do some research. Radio's absolutely awesome. I love this thing. And this is what they call the ZLink 5. There are other more advanced models out there, but I'm perfectly okay with this. This is perfect. And it's an affordable price. $579 is not bad for this.